And then there are icons. Few works of art are as instantly recognizable as The Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. The swirling sky, the glowing moon, the strange, dreamlike stars. Even people who know nothing about art history can recognize it immediately. But what makes this painting so powerful? Why has a work created by a struggling artist in a psychiatric asylum become one of the most famous paintings in human history? And perhaps the biggest irony of all, Van Gogh died believing he was a failure. Today his paintings sell for tens of millions of dollars, and The Starry Night has become one of the most beloved artworks ever created. So in this video, we're going deep into the full story behind The Starry Night, the artist, the history, the symbolism, the science, the techniques, and the reasons this painting still captivates the world more than 130 years later. Let's begin. Before understanding The Starry Night, you have to understand the man who painted it. Vincent van Gogh was born in 1853 in the Netherlands, and contrary to the myth people often imagine today, Van Gogh was not born a famous artistic genius. In fact, he struggled through most of his life. He worked odd jobs, he failed in relationships, he battled severe mental illness, and financially he depended heavily on his younger brother Theo, who supported him emotionally and financially for years. Van Gogh actually began painting seriously relatively late, in his late 20s, and during his lifetime he sold very few paintings. Some historians believe he sold only one major artwork while alive. Today, he's considered one of the greatest artists in history. That transformation from ignored artist to global legend is one of the most tragic and fascinating stories in art history. Van Gogh became associated with the post-impressionist movement. Unlike impressionists, who focused on capturing light and realistic moments, post-impressionists pushed emotion, symbolism, and personal expression even further. And Van Gogh may have pushed emotional expression further than anyone. He painted not just what he saw, but what he felt. That emotional intensity would reach one of its highest points in The Starry Night. The Starry Night was painted in June of 1889, but the location where it was created is just as important as the painting itself. Van Gogh painted it while staying at the Saint-Paul de Mossoul Asylum in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence in southern France. Yes, he painted this masterpiece while institutionalized. Just months earlier, Van Gogh had suffered a severe mental breakdown. This was around the same period connected to the famous incident where he cut off part of his own ear. Seeking treatment and stability, he voluntarily entered the asylum. Ironically, some of the greatest works of his entire career were created there. From his room, Van Gogh had a view of the countryside and the night sky. But here's something many people don't realize. The Starry Night is not an exact representation of what he saw. It's partly real observation and partly imagination. The village below the sky, for example, was invented. The massive swirling heavens were heavily stylized and emotionally exaggerated. Van Gogh was creating something deeper than realism. He was painting emotion itself. The Starry Night was painted using oil paint on canvas. The canvas itself is relatively modest in size, about 29 inches by 36 inches. But what makes the painting extraordinary is the technique. Van Gogh used thick, dramatic brush strokes in a style known as impasto. Impasto means the paint is applied so heavily that it physically rises off the canvas. If you stood in front of the real painting today, you would actually see texture and ridges created by the paint itself. The brush strokes move almost like waves. Nothing feels still. The sky twists. The stars pulse. Even the air seems alive. Art historians often point to Van Gogh's line work and motion as revolutionary because he transformed static paint into something that feels kinetic and emotional. The colors are equally important. The deep blues dominate the painting, creating calmness, mystery, and melancholy. Against those blues, Van Gogh placed bright yellows and whites in the moon and stars. Those contrasting colors make the celestial objects appear to glow intensely. Some scientists and mathematicians have even studied the painting because the swirling patterns resemble complex fluid dynamics and turbulence patterns found in nature. That's how visually powerful the motion inside the painting feels. And remember, Van Gogh painted all of this before modern psychology fully understood mental illness. Yet somehow he visually captured emotional turbulence in a way audiences still connect with today. This is where interpretations become fascinating. What exactly does the Starry Night mean? The honest answer is, no one knows completely for certain, but art historians have debated its symbolism for decades. Some believe the painting reflects Van Gogh's emotional instability and mental suffering. The swirling sky may represent chaos, anxiety, or overwhelming emotion. Others see something more hopeful. Van Gogh often wrote about spirituality, nature, eternity, and the cosmos in letters to his brother Theo. To him, the night sky was not empty darkness, it was alive. The enormous glowing stars may symbolize wonder, infinity, or even a longing for peace beyond earthly suffering. Then there's the dark cypress tree in the foreground. Cypress trees were often associated with death and cemeteries in European culture. Some historians believe the tree acts almost like a bridge between earth and the heavens. Meanwhile, the quiet village below contrasts sharply with the explosive sky above. Human life appears calm and small, while the universe above feels vast, emotional, and infinite. And that tension may be exactly why the painting resonates so strongly. It captures something deeply human, the feeling of being tiny beneath an overwhelming universe. Surprisingly, The Starry Night was not immediately celebrated as a masterpiece. In fact, Van Gogh himself wasn't entirely satisfied with it. He sometimes worried that his more imaginative works were too abstract or emotionally exaggerated. At the time, the painting did not become world famous. Remember, Van Gogh was largely unknown during his life. But after his death in 1890, at only 37 years old, attitudes slowly began to change. Critics, collectors, and artists started recognizing the emotional power of his work. Over the early 20th century, Van Gogh's reputation exploded. Artists admired his fearless emotion and expressive technique. Eventually, The Starry Night became one of the defining images of modern art itself. Today, it's viewed not only as a masterpiece of post-impressionism, but as one of the greatest paintings ever created. Today, The Starry Night is housed at Museum of Modern Art, often called MoMA, in New York City. It remains one of the museum's most visited and photographed works. Millions of people travel from around the world to see it in person, and despite endless reproductions online, seeing the real painting is completely different. The texture, movement, and scale become far more emotional face to face. It almost feels alive. So why has this painting endured for more than a century? Part of it is visual. The starry night is unforgettable. The swirling sky instantly separates it from traditional realistic paintings, but the deeper reason is emotional. People see themselves in it. Some see loneliness, some see hope, some see chaos, others see beauty and peace. The painting feels deeply personal, while also universal, and Van Gogh's life story adds another powerful layer. The idea that a struggling, mentally tormented artist created something so beautiful, while never knowing how much the world would eventually love it, gives the painting an almost mythic quality. It represents misunderstood genius, emotional vulnerability, and the connection between suffering and creativity. Even today, The Starry Night continues influencing movies, music, fashion, design, psychology, and internet culture. It has become more than a painting. It has become a symbol, more than 130 years after it was painted inside a psychiatric asylum. The starry night still feels alive. Its skies still move, its stars still glow, and its emotion still reaches across generations. Van Gogh once wrote, "I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream." And perhaps that's exactly what The Starry Night is, a dream painted onto canvas. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the history behind famous art, subscribe for more episodes covering the world's greatest masterpieces and the incredible stories behind them.